Hello, friends and clients of JLW Immigration Law Group. I am Jennifer Walker Gates, board certified immigration attorney, and I'm here today to respond to some questions that we have been receiving at our firm. I am hopeful that sharing information on this video can help people's anxiety levels come down a little bit, help people be able to think more clearly and plan more strategically as we are all facing a lot of uncertainty right now in the immigration world. Um, we will be talking specifically today mostly about deferred action for childhood arrivals, DACA, and what is going on with that program. I'm also happy to respond to individual questions, questions about adjustment of status, questions about asylum, questions about fees. There's a lot of stuff changing in the immigration world, as we all know. I have recently also recorded a couple of videos regarding habeas corpus, what that is, what it means, how it works, what it's for. So definitely check that out on our YouTube site so that you can share that information as appropriate. I also want to just take a second to ask everyone to please share, subscribe, comment. Let us know if you have questions about any of our content. You can leave comments under the videos or email us. Our email is available on our website, and you can sign up for our, follow us on social, sign up for our newsletter as well. And we will be happy to be in touch via email as questions arise. So with that, let's talk a little bit today about DACA. Many people have been hearing rumors about DACA, that something is changing, that it is changing in Texas, that it's changing nationwide, that something has developed. And what I want to stress right this moment, more than anything, is that nothing has changed yet. Nothing has changed yet. Yesterday, according to MALDEF, which is the organization litigating on behalf of DACA recipients in the case that Texas brought against the federal government, on the MALDEF website, you can see an update indicating that yesterday the parties in the cases, which include the parties are the United States government, the state of Texas, MALDEF, representing some DACA recipients, everybody filed proposals regarding how the judge should sort of implement the order of the appellate court that came out in January of this year. You might remember that in January of this year, the appellate court, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, issued a ruling saying that they felt like DACA's work permit provisions were probably illegal, and that the government did have the authority to defer deportation or protect a certain population, discrete population of individuals from deportation if they filed applications for that. So the Fifth Circuit said DACA itself is fine. It's just the work permit that goes along with it is probably not legal. We're going to limit this order to Texas. Okay. So what that means is that if the judge implements that order, the ability to receive a work permit in Texas, if you are a DACA recipient, is not clear. Okay. And I say it's not clear because the court didn't specifically address what happens with people who already received a work permit for many years, the reliance interests that attend to having had a work permit for many years. There are many businesses. There are approximately 90,000 individuals in Texas that have DACA and a work permit through that program. That's going to be a big blow to our economy, our businesses, our communities, families, etc., if those people then lose work authorization. It would arguably be worse than individuals who just simply can't get it in the first place. So we don't know what's going to happen in Texas with DACA and with their work permits yet. We don't know. We know that DHS submitted a proposal. However, the other parties did as well. Negotiations are ongoing. The court may require additional information, may require additional negotiations, and has not issued an order. Therefore, please be very careful with the rumor mill. It is really easy to fall into the trap of doom scrolling online, and becoming really disheartened and discouraged about everything that is happening. The online world is like an echo chamber, and everything is amplified. All of the stresses of the actual real world are even more intense in the online world. So we just have to be really careful in this day and age about getting too lost in there, going down too many rabbit holes in there. It's better to just, um, you know, cultivate your few very trusted, very reliable resources and sources of information and turn to those. I recommend for DACA issues specifically, maldef.org, maldef.org. That organization has been around since the 1960s, 1950s. It is, MALDEF stands for Mexican American Legal Defense and Education Fund. It is a civil rights organization that has been dedicated for many decades to protecting the interests of Latinos and Mexican Americans in the United States. They are, they have an excellent reputation, and well-deserved, and they are a great resource for good information about DACA. Turn to MALDEF, use MALDEF as your resource rather than TikTok, anyone on TikTok, Facebook, including me. I recommend them over myself for information on DACA. They are the people who have been directly involved with that lawsuit and with representing the interests of individuals who have DACA. Okay, so that is what I wanted to share about DACA for today. And I hope that that's really helpful. Again, please take a moment and share this information. As we are seeing things spread like wildfire online, we're also seeing a big toll on the mental health of our community, and individuals who are impacted, as well as their loved ones, as the result of this constant barrage of negative information and scary news. Very understandable to react emotionally in this way to this information. But we have to also remember to stop, remember there's a real world, pause, go into the real world, take deep breaths, look at the horizon, and try to take care of ourselves as best we can for the long term, on behalf of our dreams, on behalf of our loved ones. All the things that we've been fighting for all these years are still depending on us to make it through this moment. So please, please don't get too lost in that online world, but share information that you do trust and let people know what is really going on. All right. With that, I will take a couple of questions. I will be happy to respond to a couple of questions that have come in. One individual says, I live in Costa Rica. Beautiful. I would like to have information about my criminal record. Which platform could I use? Okay, that's a great question. Anytime any of us wants information about our criminal record and background, my recommendation usually is the FBI, because the FBI maintains the largest fingerprint database probably in the world, certainly in the United States, among all of the different federal agencies, state agencies, and everything. It collects all the fingerprint data. And if you have ever had any encounter with immigration or law enforcement where your fingerprints were captured, the FBI most likely has that information with notations about what happened, why you were encountered, what it was about, whether it was immigration, whether it was criminal. Sometimes it has disposition information about the case. So it's important to remember it's not always perfect. I have seen errors on FBI records. I have had to request corrections to FBI records before. However, for the most part, very much the majority of the time, the information that you can get from the FBI background check is very reliable and very accurate. In order to receive an FBI record, you need to submit a valid fingerprint card. If you are not in the United States, there are a number of ways to get one of those cards printed. The U.S. Embassy in San Jose, Costa Rica, can offer that service as I'm not exactly sure how to make an appointment for that if you're not already a U.S. citizen, but most consulates and embassies will allow individuals to have fingerprints captured and submit them to the FBI. The FBI itself charges $18 to process the fingerprints and provide the criminal records. And they also provide immigration records. They provide all of the law enforcement records, not just criminal. So that's one option. There also may be businesses and visa services around embassies and consulates around the world that can assist with capturing fingerprints in a way that the FBI can then use. Then that fingerprint card has to be provided via mail to the FBI. So the way that you would mail it from Costa Rica might differ from the way you would mail it, for example, from Mexico or from Europe. Maybe it might be DHL, maybe it might be Federal Express. The service and mail provider that you use might vary. It's going to be really, really important to make sure that you are using a secure mail service with tracking and that you're tracking what you're sending. Make sure it arrived so that you are able to get the response. If you're sending the FBI request from outside the United States, it's unlikely they're going to mail it back to you outside the United States. So you may need to provide a local address in the United States where those results can be sent. So just think about potentially using sort of a local address as a kind of base in the United States. Perhaps someone there can also physically take your fingerprint cards to the US and use the US Postal Service to mail them from there. But by and large, criminal records, I recommend using the Federal Bureau of Investigation's criminal record database, fingerprint database to capture those records. I hope that helps. Happy to respond to any follow-up questions if there are any. All right, another question. An interview for adjustment of status coming up in a few weeks. Should I upload documents and evidence a few days before to the account, or just take what I have to the actual interview? Okay, that's a great question. And in this day and age with the online accounts, those make it relatively easy for us to submit evidence to our case and know certainly that that the evidence isn't going to be lost and it's not going to be mistakenly put with somebody else's file. It's going to be part of our account. So in a case where someone has an online account, they have the ability to scan and upload evidence and documentation in support of their case. My recommendation would be to do that and also take the evidence to the interview. Adjustment of status interviews through marriage typically are designed to confirm that the individuals who have appeared at the interview are the same ones who are represented in the applications, and that those individuals have a bona fide marriage, a good faith marriage. In other words, this is not a marriage that was entered into for the purposes of obtaining a green card. In my experience, USCIS really wants to see, ideally, financial documentation. They really want to see that the couple has begun intermingling finances. That can mean a shared bank account. It can mean if you have any kind of insurance policy. It can mean naming the other as beneficiary. If you have insurance through an employer, have you updated your marital status with the employer? Do you have car insurance together? Do you have any loans together? Have you purchased a home together? Do you have a rental contract together? They really want to see what they call commingling of financial responsibilities and assets. If you don't have many of those things because you're relatively newlywed, or because you just recently got your Social Security card, things like that, it is okay. Still do what you can to document the good faith marriage, both through your online account and taking to the interview. That might also include certainly photographs of the couple together. Ideally, you can include some letters from friends and family who can attest to the validity of the relationship. Perhaps there's travel history together where you can show that you've taken trips together. If there's a child together, definitely include that information. There is a lot that can be provided to demonstrate the bona fides of the marriage. And in my experience, again, those financial documents are the things that can really help the most. Also, just a pro tip, if you have a pet, it is a really good idea to include pictures of your pets. That, in my experience, has literally saved cases before. So it's really important to have a copy of everything that you do submit to USCIS. So that's why uploading it in that online account can be so advantageous, because you still maintain the original copies of everything, and you can see right there exactly what you've turned in. So I hope that that's helpful. I hope that you have the very best luck and that your interview is very smooth, easy, and successful. Okay, one more question. Will the shutdown impact processing times? My concern, processing time for an I-824 through the Texas Service Center was standing at 15 months 2 weeks ago. Today, there is no Texas Service Center listed. Oh, that's very interesting, and it's a really good question. The government shutdown ostensibly should not impact USCIS processing. The reason for that is that USCIS is funded through filing fees and not through tax revenue. So the budget that the government cannot agree about, it deals with how to spend our income tax revenue. The fees that we file and pay when we file forms like I-824 are what pay for USCIS to process our cases. So ostensibly, the processing times shouldn't be affected that much. That said, we have seen in the past times where USCIS was impacted because they were waiting on court rulings for certain things and the courts were not functioning, or they were waiting on the Department of State to do something. And in a case with an I-824, there may be some correspondence that needs to happen between the Department of State and USCIS. In that case, the government shutdown could actually impact the timeline. We will have to wait and see. It really depends on the kind of current posture and stance of the case and the case file itself, where it is, how far along is it, on whose desk is it, what else is that person dealing with. I hope that it is not the case that your particular file is impacted, but it is important to bear in mind that it could be, and that would not necessarily mean that anything is wrong with the case or that it won't ultimately be approved, but it could be slowed down, and it will be important to keep an eye on it and keep an eye on processing times. I will expect, the USCIS processing times to continue to be published and updated. If the Texas Service Center isn't on the site today, I'm not sure exactly why that would be, but Texas Service Center itself isn't funded by tax revenue, so it should not really be fatally impacted by what is happening with the government shutdown. I hope that helps. Please feel free to reach out with any further additional questions. Okay, one more question here, and this one is in Spanish. Hace 35 años, $15 en una tienda, mi hija quiere pedir. Fui arrestado 2 horas. Okay. So, okay, la pregunta tiene que ver con una historia de, parece robo muy menor, en el contexto de un caso de migración. En general, bueno, es importantísimo entender que tienes que analizar la ley del estado donde pasó el incidente, para estar 100% segura, y tienes que presentar los documentos de disposición del caso, indicando últimamente que fue determinado por la corte, con respecto a su culpabilidad, qué castigo recibió, etcétera. Parece trabajos comunitarios como castigo. Ese cuenta como castigo, pero no es como tan severo como en la cárcel o algo así. En general, un delito así menor de robo puede calificar para lo que se llama la exención de un delito como petty. No sé cómo se dice la palabra petty en español. Voy a ver la translation. A ver. Crimen de menor cuantía. So, en los Estados Unidos tenemos una idea de un petty crime, que es casi no es aún ilegal, es tan pequeño. Tomar algo que cuesta $15 es algo muy común que hacen muchas personas jóvenes, muchas personas bajo mucho estrés, y no es algo tan severo que la ley de migración lo castiga para siempre, ni a veces en el primera instancia. Entonces, lo que yo imagino en un caso familiar así, de una petición de una ciudadana por su mamá extranjera para venir con su residencia, es que un delito menor hace mucho tiempo no va a descalificar a la persona, pero también es importantísimo presentar toda la documentación indicando qué pasó y qué fue el resultado del caso, si cumplió con los términos de su castigo, etcétera. El consulado va a requerir toda esa documentación. Entonces va a ser súper importante colectar, juntar todo eso para presentar en su caso. With that, I do not see additional questions right now. So again, messages for today. First of all, DACA is the subject of a lot of court battles, negotiations, appeals, as we all know. Some stuff was filed in that case yesterday, and people are worried and concerned, understandably. However, the status quo for DACA remains intact. If you have had DACA in the past, you can file renewals of both your DACA status and your work authorization document. That is really important. Second, it will be really important to be careful about your news sources right now. Be careful about getting too anxious and worked up. This has been my message for my staff. This has been my message for my clients. Right now is a really important, and my colleagues as well, it's a really important moment to learn how to regulate our nervous system, soothe ourselves, calm our stresses, because too much stress for too long will make us really sick. So we need to be in good shape for this fight for the long term. So please take breaks. Please take care of yourselves. Go outside, move your body, get in nature, look at the horizon, take deep breaths. Remember that we are part of a community, and we are part of a long lineage of people who have fought and thrived through times of adversity. I see another question. Let's see here. I-601 may be needed. Yep. Lots and lots of long wait times, and that also can be very stressful, Richard. Waiting is really hard on us, especially when the stakes are high like this. So, yes, one day at a time. That's a really great philosophy. Today is really all we have. We cannot predict what will happen in the future. We cannot change what will happen in the past. But today we can be present for one another. We can take care of ourselves. We can take care of our loved ones. We can take steps toward a future that we hope to have. And that is good for us. It's good for the world. So that's what we'll need to do. And yeah, the I-601As actually have improved their processing times over the past several months. I've been very pleased to see that while they're still very long, way too long, they're no longer 3-4 years. They're more like just around a little over 2 years. So hopefully that trend will continue. We'll continue to see them improve. We're definitely seeing big improvements as well with U visa cases, with people getting their bona fide determinations and getting their work authorization documents. So it's important to give a little bit of airtime in the brain to stuff that's happening that is positive, because there is still stuff happening that's good. Okay. With that, I will get off my soapbox. I hope that all of you stay safe. Please reach out to us if we can help with anything at all with your immigration case. 512-633-1785 is our phone number in Austin, and our team will be happy to help you get scheduled for an appointment with me or any of the attorneys in our firm. VAWA processing time has increased. What is USCIS doing to improve? Well, that's a really good question that I'm not quite sure how to answer. USCIS moves staff around. I think they probably moved some of the VAWA staff onto the U visa caseload to get that working better and get some of that backlog cleared out. With a VAWA case, most of the time, not always, many times with a VAWA case, a person can be eligible for something called interim relief while they're waiting, and those interim relief determinations come pretty quickly. And so although that doesn't bring a lot of benefits in terms of immigration, it's at least something to give the person evidence that they're in process and that they have a viable, legitimate case. So hopefully people can continue to take advantage of those while their cases are processing. A lot of the cases are still taking way too long. However, there are some improvements, and that gives me hope that we'll continue to see more of those. Fingers crossed. All right, everyone, please be safe. I will be back next Wednesday at noon. Please join me again for more Q&A. In the meantime, reach out to us at jlw.law or 512-633-1785, and we will be grateful and honored to be able to be part of your journey. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.